Hello, my fellow Trollops. It comes to this, the sixth and final in the Palliser series, the parliamentary novels by Anthony Trollope. Uh, this final volume, written in 1880, it's, I guess, the final bit of us. We've been following, well, many characters, but I guess the core ones have been Glencora, Lady Glencora, and Plantagenet Palliser. They've been kind of the spine characters through all these books of basically it's also called the parliamentary novels. So looking at this is written in the late 1800s, and it's contemporary novels of the time, and it's very much going into kind of like all the kind of the political stuff of the time. The parliament, we get into the parliament, we get into kind of some of the nitty-gritty of the politics and comments on that, but we also get the personal, which is where definitely the female characters get to really step forward. Glencora in the last book had actually tried to kind of push her way into the political side of things, but that was rejected by her very cold and not very sociable husband. Glencora tried to help him run a coalition government using all her social skills, which is basically what they needed. Indeed, by the end of the book, they were like, well, maybe not by Plantagenet himself, but there are definitely people of the opinion that she would have made a better prime minister than Plantagenet, especially for this occasion. So yes, we come to this final novel, and let me just start off by saying right here, this is the number 6 in a number 6 in a 6-book series. This is not the place to start this series. Or Trollope, to feel the true hammer blow that happens at the beginning of this book, you need to start at the beginning. So, au revoir, go away, because you don't want to hear what comes next, or it will, I don't know about spoilers, but it will certainly color. It's going to color whenever I reread this series, which I am sure I will. It will color how I read them going forward. I'm a crier. I said that in the last video, and I truly am. So, this book starts, here it comes. This book starts with the lines, the very, very, very first lines of this book. As I flip through, because I'm bad and haven't gotten my page numbers. I didn't think I was going to read this, but no one, the first line. Well, first, chapter 1, when the Duchess was dead. No one probably ever felt himself to be more alone in the world than our old friend, the Duke of Omnium, when the Duchess died. So that's Plantagenet Palliser feeling all alone because Lady Glencora has died. And Trollope is always your most surprising author, because not only does he, in the very first line, kill off arguably the most popular, the most humanly engaging character of his series, but that when he gets like the death scene, the thing that I think a lesser author would like, wow, well, this would be the end of a book, and it would be a dramatic thing, and it would be kind of like, it would be gigantic. It's like, this is how the death is described. They'd gone away to the continent because of what had happened in the last novel. They'd come back and forth, and all that stuff. And now it's like in March they spent a few days in London, and then they went down to Matching Priory. When she left town, the Duchess was complaining of cold, sore throat, and disability. A week after their arrival at Matching, she was dead. And it's sort of like it's the equivalent of someone said, "Oh yeah, Chuck died. Yeah, he got a cold and he died." It's like you're not even showing or dramatizing it. In the end, I mean, as we go forward, we get more stuff, but that is how he puts that. Now this isn't to say that Trollope is not wanting to hammer blow you, because I'm not going to read the next paragraph because that would kill me and all you'd see is me blubbering. But he then goes into, basically, if England fell, if there was the French Revolution, if the Queen decided to start just ignoring the Parliament, it wouldn't have had as much of a devastating effect on Plantagenet Palliser. See, I'm already crying. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it, Trollope. And so and so. And so and oh, okay, and so and it's basically the thing is Plantagenet. Trollope talks in this. He's like, Plantagenet didn't even realize until Glencora died exactly how much it's like. Suddenly it's like, oh my god, he thought, oh yeah, I love her, and maybe she's a bit of a burden on me or something like that, and she dies, and then he suddenly realizes, I am without a limb, I'm without. Yeah. But she, who had been essentially human, had been a link between him and the world. Well, now I've got another book I can cry at. Damn it! And that's why I read Trollope. That's got to be why I read Trollope. I think that a part of that has to be, it's the book. It's also my relationship with the world, and that I have one best friend, and that is my partner. Okay, so yes, that happens, and you know what? Let us move on, because this book is called The Duke's Children, and indeed, the Duchess was Plantagenet's link to his children as well. She is the one that they would go to with their worries and their troubles, and she was the one who could kind of translate their foibles, and they're full of a lot of foibles, into a way to kind of guide Plantagenet in how the children were guided through life. And so he has there's three children that are left. There's Lord Silverbridge, the eldest son. There is Gerald, someone we don't see too terribly much in these first 1 to 20 chapters, which is what I'm doing today. And then Lady Mary. Now, there's a note in the book saying that between this and the Prime Minister, in the Prime Minister they talk about 2 daughters, but by this book there's only 1 daughter. And the note in the back of this says, "Oh well, did Trollope forget a daughter? I don't know if he forgot a daughter or he simply went, yeah, that doesn't work with my thing, and I'm just tossing that out, and who cares?" Kind of, obsessive people on the internet or notes in the back of books, maybe he didn't quite care as much about. I didn't. If I hadn't read the note, I wouldn't have remembered, so I'm obviously not a super details person. But yeah, so there's the 3 children, and these opening chapters are indeed, it's about Plantagenet having to now being like, oh, how am I going to guide these children, and seeming to fail miserable at it. They're all kind of messes up. Lord Silverbridge, the eldest, has gotten kicked out of Oxford for a stupid prank of painting the front of the dean's house red. That he's gotten into horse racing and is losing tons of money on that. And oh god, well, we'll get into just the horse names. The first horse that gets mentioned is the coalition horse, which failed, as coalitions often do, which is obviously, it's a dig back at the Prime Minister, the book before this, where the coalition failed. And then the second horse that ends up, being an also ran is the Prime Minister, which is, you've got to think is sort of, this is Silverbridge somehow digging at the old man, or it's just Trollope poking at poor Palliser about his useless son. But the big thing that happens with Lord Silverbridge is, now the Pallisers have always been liberals all the way through. Their history is as a liberal family, and and the son decides to become a conservative. It's like, no, his friend Frank Tregear basically kind of talks him into it. And he's decided, oh, I'm going to be a conservative. So he crosses over and he runs as a conservative. And because he's running in the family estate, and actually a lot of the people in the family parish or whatever it is are kind of conservative by nature. They're quite happy. I mean, they were happy to vote for Plantagenet Palliser and all the Pallisers that went through when they were liberals, but they didn't really think much of it. That was just kind of a duty and loyalty thing. Actually, a very conservative conservative feel to it. But no, now that the Lord Silverbridge is going to be a conservative, though, we're happy to vote for him for that, because we're happy to have another Palliser in there, and that he's going to be a conservative is just like gravy on the cake. But this really kind of is a good kick to the old man, who's like, wow, his sense of duty and of wanting to make things better for people. The conservatives have their own stuff, but it's more about order and stuff like that. Whereas, Plantagenet has definitely been about progressiveness versus change, a slow change, because this is English liberalism, versus conservative. Let's hold back that change as long as possible. And the two parties actually do work well to slow each other, or hinder. They push each other along in a kind of a slow, orderly fashion. That's good government. By Jove, in the English model of, let's be very boring so we can get along with business and stuff like that. So yeah, that's Lord Silverbridge and the kind of the troubles with him. Gerald, the second oldest, was doing indifferently well in Cambridge. He manages by the end of these chapters to get himself kicked out of Cambridge because he insists on ignoring his tutor's basically edict that no one's going to all these horse races, because they're basically dens for betting and all sorts of disreputable behavior. It's really fallen off as a thing that respectable people do. And yes, so he gets himself kicked out. So he's got two sons who've been kicked out of school. Palliser's just like, oh, what am I supposed to do with these people? But the real problem here is Lady Mary. And it is the unfortunate aspect of it is Lady Mary has about the same taste in men that Glencora did. Glencora, at the very, very first book, Can You Forgive Her, was in love with Burgo Fitzgerald, a disreputable wastrel who, in the very end scene, is seen gambling, and he gets pensioned off and pushed aside because the family says, no, you're not marrying Burgo Fitzgerald. You're going to marry this boring, respectable, hard-working guy, Plantagenet Palliser. But Glencora, as much as she loves and has come to be just great couple with Plantagenet Palliser, also regrets that. And when her daughter falls for a basically penniless guy who's kind of blown through his own inheritance, and he's intelligent, but doesn't seem to have any ambition, hasn't really tried to get himself a position anywhere, that's she sympathizes with her daughter so much that she actually encourages it and allows them to get engaged secretly in Italy, and indeed is waiting until she comes back and for the right time to tell her husband, oh, our daughter's gotten engaged to this dope, and she was going to smooth things over. But that doesn't happen. She dies. And indeed, on her deathbed, she says to Plantagenet, oh, you have to make sure you give her lots of money just in case she wants to marry some poor penniless guy. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll do that, because he's thinking it's just in vague generalities. He thinks she's worried about the daughter just in general. But no, it's the specifics that she has messed up. And indeed, into this situation, my fictional crush, Miss Finn, the former Madame Max Goesler, comes, and she's like, oh God, Glencora was asking about Frank Tregear, and she's afraid that she was encouraging her on stuff. And she says, like, look, I can't be her advisor. And she doesn't help Plantagenet in this, but she doesn't want to be her advisor because she's afraid what she's going to find out, at which point she'll be obligated to tell Plantagenet about what's going on, and he will be terrible. He'll be very angry, and she'll feel like, if I enter into being kind of her confidant, knowing that she's going to blurt out something that I'm going to have to tell Plantagenet, I don't feel honest, because I'm not going to be able to keep her confidence. That said, circumstances, she does end up getting heard that information, and she says to Mary and to Frank Tregear, who she has a very prickly and not satisfactory. I mean, Frank Tregear does not come off well in this thing. We'll get to Frank, but she's like, you have no right to tell me what to do. It's like, well, I'm going to tell Plantagenet unless you tell him immediately. This is stuff you cannot keep secret from him. He needs to know. He needs to know right now. And indeed, through her pressure, he does tell her that. However, when Plantagenet asks, oh, who else knew about this? And, it's like, well, your wife did, which really, he's still in the grief. And the last thing he wants to know is that his wife encouraged this disastrous, what he views at least, as a disastrous relationship. And then Frank Tregear also says, oh, yeah, and Mrs. Finn knew. Not mentioning that Miss Finn knew and forced me to immediately come to you, but just, oh, yeah, she knew. Which is, him digging at Mrs. Finn, which he doesn't like her very much, obviously, and is that petty and mean in a situation like this to go against my fictional crush is what I'm saying here. Don't mess with Mrs. Finn. She is awesome. So Plantagenet then proceeds to blow up over that. Can't be angry at his wife, doesn't want to think about what his wife has done. She is dead and he is horribly mourning. So he takes all that anger out on Mrs. Finn, really alienates her. In the end, by the end of these chapters, is like, oh, after like a lot of prodding and poking, is finally brought back to the thing of, oh, maybe I have mistreated her. And it's like, oh God, I have mistreated her. And just, but that had to be the greatest ally. If you're going to have somebody that you could actually have been a friend and that someone who could have helped you along with your children, it was going to be Mrs. Finn. And I guess we'll see going forward how Mary, Mrs. Finn, is going to. I have a feeling that she's going to be there for the kids just because that's her relationship at the very end there. She is the one who tended to Glencora at the end. She is the one who listened to her hopes and fears about her children. I really feel because Madame Max Goesler Marie is the most awesome character, in my opinion, that she will come back in this. Oh God, it's almost 20 minutes in. I haven't even gotten to like Frank Tregear, who he is penniless. I mean, he had a lot of money, but he seems to have blown it, or it seems to be out of the picture by this point. He was in love with another woman, Lady Mabel Grex, but they're both penniless, and she rejected him. Lady Mabel rejected him, and I have to say, in this book, I mean, of the new characters, I was sort of a little bit down. I mean, it may just be the wash-on effect of I'm still mourning Glencora, that I wasn't finding the new characters, like, the children are all young dopes at this point, so it's hard to get from them. Mrs. Finn is getting shoved out of the picture. It was like, oh, who is there here to kind of root for? And actually, at the very last chapter, we have Lady Mabel, who is like, she's also, while Frank Tregear is friends with Lord Silverbridge. That's how he got his entry into the family and got access to perhaps access to Lady Mary. Frank Tregear has this relationship with Lady Mabel. So then Lady Mabel has met Lord Silverbridge. God help you if you have not read all these books and trying to keep track of it. But so Lady Mabel is like, oh, I kind of like him, and I mean, he is the biggest catch. He's the biggest catch on the scene of a thing. But she only kind of likes him. She doesn't love him, and he is such a young dope. He got pushed along. He got pushed along by Frank Tregear to make a life-changing decision to become a conservative. Once you've entered into this thing into the Parliament as a conservative, there's no going back. You have changed your life significantly, and you kind of stomped all over all of your family history. I mean, I guess that's the way of youth, but it's like, wow, he let somebody, Frank Tregear, do that to him, and so she doesn't respect him. And at the very end of those chapters, he's like, well, because they're talking about the Frank Tregear and Lady Mabel, and he's going like, well, it's an unsuitable marriage. He's not suitable to her. She's penniless. And she's like, oh yeah, well, like, yeah, me and Frank are, I think it's she who says, yeah, me and Frank, we're like beggars or something like that. And And he's like, well, well, you love me. You would love a man for himself. You wouldn't love him for his money. He's like, well, no, she's like, no, I'm a sensible woman. I'm going to marry well. I may have loved some, there's people I may have loved, but if it's not, I can't remember if he actually, he intuits at least that she has been intimate with Frank Tregear, and that maybe that was her true love. And that really hurts him, because it's like, well, you don't actually love me. You're just kind of going for me for them, for money. And, could you, do you have any feelings towards me? And he's kind of pushing her. And he thinks to himself, like, if she'd only slightly kind of shown some softness, a little submissiveness to him, he would have like, he would have proposed to her. But she just laughs him off. And you're thinking, wow, she kind of really self-destructed herself there. And you think, wow, she's not as smart as she thinks. But in the very next, the final chapter, she's like, yeah, I knew he didn't want me. I knew he wanted me to kind of submit. And I could have got him at that point. I could have just kind of shown a little submission, little softness, and he would have been mine. And I would have had this giant prize as someone who is, the poor nobility would have been amazing for her. But he wouldn't have been superior to me. There's the whole thing of like a husband should be like as a god to a wife, which, is obviously it's the cliched, it's the expected kind of relationship between a man and a woman at these times. Even though I would say Plantagenet and Glencora did not have that relationship, and seemed very, very successful. Although it wasn't a love match. It's interesting. But yes, so she rejects him. She rejects him, and she laughs him off, and she says, like, yeah, I knew he wouldn't like being laughed at. And he doesn't, and he kind of goes off in a dungeon. And it's like, Lady Mabel is like an interesting character to me in this. Is like, there's somebody with who's smart, and who sort of like says, like, no, I want somebody I can respect. I mean, it's this worshiping somebody as a god, but somebody I can respect. And I can respect that. And it makes me think of Madame Max Goesler back with the old Duke of Omnium. That wasn't sort of a respect thing so much as a self-respect for, like, if I would get the great prize, but I would be surrounded by people who would just think I'm a dirty gold digger. It's like, well, no, I want to be happy in this world. There was a thoughtfulness to her actions, which really respected. And I respect Lady Mabel's actions here, though at the very end she does say, yeah, I was only strong enough to do that once. If he came back to me again, I would take him. And I guess we'll go along to see if he does come back, or if that was it, if the wounded male pride, that's the time. And there's, as she says, there's plenty of other huntresses out there. I guess we'll have to say huntresses in this case, out there aiming for a prize of a big dumb lion like Lord Silverbridge. So yes, the Duke's children. Lady Glencora is dead, but she weighs heavily over this book with a daughter who at the beginning chapters, Trollope is very much careful to say, she has her mother's eyes, and that sharp, quick intelligence, and a quick manner of speaking, and is kind of very brave and courageous of heart. But it's perhaps maybe learned that sometimes you can hold your tongue and gain more than if you just say everything, which is definitely was Glencora's thing, which was an endearing part about Glencora as well. So I have hopes for Lady Mary as well, though it's like, but yes. So this is a novel which is precipitated by the death of Lady Glencora. She is not in this book, but the Duke is going to have to learn. I'm assuming a part of this is the Duke is going to have to learn to operate somehow without her. And I can only imagine that's going to happen if he can get the proper advisors, the proper people beside him, because Plantagenet has slightly changed as who he is, but it's more he's surrounded himself by people who've been able to give him that stiff, soulful man. He's soulful. He's a gray man with no isolated with feelings. He's enclosed. He's the armored armored, very English dude who is just can't let any of that out, and is has very trouble with human relations. And it's like, without Glencora, he's going to have to get someone there, and if he's alienated the most amazing woman in this universe, Madame Max Goesler, Mrs. Finn, grudgingly Mrs. Finn. I'll give it to Phineas Finn. He matured into a man who was worthy enough for Madame Max Goesler. She's the widow of Max Goesler. I don't know. I love Madame Max Goesler as a thing. Okay, so yes, that is my far too long opening gambit on the first 20 chapters of The Duke's Children by Anthony Trollope. More videos later, much more Trollope, inevitably. Yes, more videos later.